All right,
Yeah,
Game of
let's do
Thrones,
it.
season 8, episode 5. Uh, the
The
Mad Queen, dude.
bells.
Yeah, the bells. I mean, really, this is just Danny evolving into the Mad Queen. Uh, the majority of the episode was the Battle of King's Landing, which, uh,
Not really a
but
battle, a sack.
yeah, yeah, I guess that's a much better way to put it. But Danny just running shit with Drogon. Apparently, like you really don't need an army when you have a dragon. Like,
Hmm.
I mean,
Shocker.
what could have stopped her? Yeah, I mean, I my whole thing is just like, if it was this easy, I wish she had just gone and burned down the Red Keep like 3 seasons ago. Just get it over with. It's
Season
not good
7, episode
storytelling.
2 or something.
Yeah, would have been real nice just to be like, oh, okay, that's taken care of. Give a little bit more time to some of these other storylines that we've been talking about, which obviously could not have been driven forward if Cersei and Jamie had been killed that early. But I think more than anything, it just kind of comes back to the pacing of the show is the biggest problem. People are nitpicking at, oh, it doesn't make sense for Danny's character to all of a sudden have this heel turn while
Weak
while the
take.
bells were ringing. I agree. I think it is a weak take, especially I was thinking back, and there's I think right as she like heel turns, there's someone screaming, "Queen Cersei, bring the bells!" And I think that right there probably is what made her snap. Is this idea that she's basically made King's Landing bend to her will, and they're still calling someone else their queen at that point, and she's just
Hmm.
like, "Fuck this! They're never gonna really love me. They're never gonna really choose me over the people who are originally here." But still, I come back to, they've been building up to these things happening for a while. I don't think there's anything that's happened in the show where I'm like, wow, that doesn't make any sense for these characters to be doing these things. I think they're all
Hmm.
within the realm of possibility. I do think the pace of which is happening is a bit jarring because, you go from how methodical the early seasons were. I mean, how many, like the whole first season is like Tywin just like writing letters and just, setting up these elaborate traps. And then you just have a lot of plot happening within condensed periods. And it just feels like the show is just happening too quickly.
Right. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I haven't really had a problem with any one character decision or action. I think all of it has made sense and seemed logical in terms of the way the arcs were going. But because past seasons have been condensed in terms of just less episodes, less runtime, less runway to uh, pad things out, when character does A and then immediately does B, whether in the episode or an hour and a half later, the next episode, it does feel rushed, even if ultimately that direction would have made sense. And I think what happens between Brienne and Jamie, and then Jamie and Cersei, is a good example of that, where I actually really liked how it went down, but it did feel sped up as a
Mhm.
result. And uh, I'm not disappointed, but it just feels like the execution has hurt the effectiveness of things that should have been effective because it was the right thing to happen. Um, and some people have been surprised at Danny Breaking Bad, and again, as you said, that has been sown and laid out through 7 other seasons. She's literally burned somebody or something in every other season, for that matter. Um,
Yeah.
and they've laid the ground that she is insecure in terms of the support of the other people and feeling
Mhm.
like an outsider in the place she thought of was her true home. That's all been set up, but because it's the actual plot action is taking place in less amount of time, it just feels a little jarring, as you said. So I think I mean I kind of accepted the pacing would be off since last season. So I haven't really been letting it bother me. And I really liked last night, the Bells, because it was Miguel Sapochnik, and shout out all you people with bad TVs or bit rates or whatever. It was in the lights. You could see. I'm glad everyone could catch up this time.
Shouts to all you people out there with bad TVs. That's a quote right there. Um, you know, it it's really, as you were talking, I was thinking about this, and Danny, if this had been a regular season of Game of Thrones, right? And they didn't have to speed it up over 6 episodes. It was regular 10 episode season. You have to think the battle for Winterfell is probably mid season, and then they spent an episode planning the sack of King's Landing. Danny and John, there's a lot more in terms of their relationship falling apart and drama there. A lot more about Sansa and how she's kind of like sowing these seeds elsewhere. Varys and Tyrion working behind the scenes. There's just more that's showing like you would probably see more scenes of Danny looking gaunt and looking tired and looking just totally worn down. You'd
Distressed.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see probably Varys trying to work more of like the little birds, trying to like poison Danny or whatever they were trying to do there at the beginning. There's just all these things that would have given it more like, you see what's happening. You're
Mm,
laying it out more. And that's what the time gives you, is it gives you time to show. And because there's so little time, they've had to tell us a lot of things.
yeah.
One area where I think they actually really failed to show more than they did in other places was last night after Danny broke bad. They didn't show her. They didn't show any reactions of her other than her on the back of Drogon, and I felt like that was actually a bit of a miss, because
Mm,
I think I guess after the Thrones they talked about they wanted you to really get the feel of what it was like to be on the ground, what these common folk were going through,
yeah. The terror.
which yeah, and you definitely get that with Arya, but I almost feel like I got it, I understood it after like the first 10 or 15 times I saw a building explode or I saw fire burn these innocent people alive. I wanted to see what was going through Danny's mind. Was she just totally raging? Was she like in like a fugue state? Like I wanted to see like where she was
Mm,
at, because I felt like, this is a big heel turn for her. And the next time we're going to see her is what, sitting on a throne of ash. I wanted to see what that reaction was for her. And I felt like that was a bit of a miss
mm,
in terms of the show.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I see a lot of people making jokes with the crossbows, the scorpions. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'd have I didn't have that big an issue with it just because whether it was logical or not, the Rhaegal attack was a surprise, right? They weren't ready
Mm-hmm.
for it, and now having
Which
Danny do the Harrenhal dive bomb from the top and just fucking shit up,
that was
it's
awesome.
okay with me. I mean, what the crossbows went like 3 for 100, you know, or
Generous.
they hit a home run game one and then went 0 for 4 the
Yeah.
next day. Like I don't know, it kind of adds up to me. I don't find that game breaking or anything. Uh,
Yeah, it's still annoying, I think, more than anything.
sure,
Just
it's an
like
unforced error. Like it's a nitpick that you didn't have to present for the nitpickers to pick.
exactly.
Uh, I actually kind of enjoyed Euron and Jamie, and a lot of people have remarked that it kind of just shows the promise that Euron had if his
Hmm.
show incarnation was done a little differently. Euron's a character in the books that is much more layered and also a lot scarier and more formidable, but ultimately does a lot of stuff that was never even close to being addressed on the show. So it made sense that he was changed. In fact, having him be introduced to the show at such a late stage and kind of reestablishing the Iron Islands as an entity
Hmm.
was, was a choice they made, and it had, mixed results. But I don't know, having them, scrap on the beach, it was cool because, like, obviously, no one wanted to see Euron kill Jamie, but
Hmm.
I'm also happy Euron got fucked up and not just fried alive on a ship, you know.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree.
and then, like, obviously, Clegane was a big
Yeah, that was
thing
awesome.
people have wanted for a long time. It's been on T-shirts for 3 years,
Hmm.
and
Did not
the
disappoint.
Hound, yeah, no, absolutely not. And the Hound is a character that basically served his narrative purpose already. He's obviously a fantastic character. Rory McCann has been great the whole time, but
Hmm.
he kind of served his purpose up through his duel with Brienne. He redeemed himself in a certain sense. Arya learned from him, and that we were good. But then he
Hmm.
comes back to life, and again, it's also hinted that he'll do this in the books. But having him come back, it's kind of like bonus Hound, right? And we get him
Yep.
doing just cool shits at the Long Night and obviously Beyond the Wall.
Hmm.
But it would have felt weird that the Hound really came back to life if he didn't attempt to settle his score with Gregor, with the Mountain. And I thought that was badass. I thought having Cersei like tiptoe around and be like, let me get out of here. Y'all do your thing. Loved it. Also, the
Yeah.
way Sir Gregor fucking nonchalantly murders Qyburn, I thought was awesome. Because Qyburn's a
Yeah.
character that has been, I
Kyburn.
think, portrayed, yeah, Qyburn, he's been portrayed pretty well for some time, but no one's really thought, oh, I wonder how Qyburn's going to die. And just having it be like just like a snap of the fingers like that, I thought was effective. And it's also kind of
Yeah.
fitting considering Qyburn's the reason the mountain came back to life in a
Hmm.
certain sense. And,
Yeah.
having like the mountain remove some of his armor and really seeing how much of a reanimated corpse he really is. Shout out all the magic heads that don't think they get enough of that on the show. Well, you got some magic. You literally saw him being a fucking tank. So
Well, yeah,
I thought it was
and
great.
a dragon the whole entire episode, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah, the clicking bowl hit, but you know what scene actually stood out a lot to me, and I was surprised at how emotional I got was the Jamie Tyrion scene where
Oh
Tyrion
fuck yeah,
frees him, and that I thought was
payoff.
one of the strongest scenes yesterday because I think it gets overlooked a lot their relationship, but I think they really captured like that brotherhood and Dinklage. I mean, I thought for sure he was gone this week. I'm glad he wasn't. I'm glad he survived, but I think he's been excellent with a character that's been evolving a bit this season, and they're not. I think they're not 100% sure how to keep Tyrion in this as he keeps taking these L's. Like it also feels a bit. I don't know if it makes total sense for him because I also think uh, it undersells a little bit of the intelligence of the character at
Mm.
times, but overall, I think that was great. I think the relationship moments are great too. Like when Danny was talking to John at the beginning of the episode and talking about how alone she feels, and John's trying to comfort her, say, this is my queen. You're my queen forever. And then he like kind of pulls back from the kiss. I thought that was incredibly effective
Yep.
to kind of lay that twist that comes, that feeling of being alone that Danny's dealing with. So the show is still top notch. It's just Game of Thrones has set such a high bar
Yeah. Exactly.
that no show is going to be able to maintain that as you're also ending a beloved story that hasn't had its conclusion yet.
And it's also super wide and
Right.
unwieldy as a narrative. I just laugh when people are like Game of Thrones is bad now, and they're like 100% serious. Like it's not bad. Relax. Like
No,
I don't trust your critical opinion if you really think that. You know. And
it's
as we said before, you can be disappointed or pissed off at the pacing and thought things didn't
mhm,
land the way they should have. That is a totally fair way to feel. And I think most people feel that way, at least to some degree. But
mhm,
I just think people have been taking their distrust of the showrunners up to this point now, given what we've seen, and their disappointment in how the pacing has treated the story, and are now applying that to, oh, well, this arc isn't actually the way something to go. They're ruining characters. I just don't think any of that actually lands when you examine what's going on. Uh, Only one episode to go, though. It's kind of wild that it's basically done.
yeah. Any predictions you want to make before
Yeah.
we wrap
Well,
up around Game of Thrones?
as everyone's saying, to quote Ramsey, if you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention. Does And everyone's like, oh, well, Danny's definitely going to die by John or Arya. Yes, they're clearly probably the only two options there are to get it done
Hmm.
if it was to happen. What if it doesn't happen? You know, what if John like turns his back on her and goes up north, hang out with Tormund and Ghost, or just go
I,
live with Sansa? I don't know. Like I'm curious to see how Danny acts after winning, after sealing the deal. Like obviously she has her army that's still loyal to her, but will she just let the North go? It doesn't sound like that's something she would do, given every convo she had with Sansa earlier in the season. So I don't know. There's a lot to go down, and you know, it's an 80-minute episode once again, but it's not like it's a big battle episode. We assume so.
mhm.
I don't know. It could go any number of ways. I feel like it's kind of foolish to theorize at this point because most theories aren't incorrect now these days.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to have to be some sort of showdown between Danny and John, especially because Grey Worm's going to narc on John about pulling back his forces
Right.
as Danny is pushing forward. But yeah, I would like to see that. Just go up north and just be like, yo, we're just going to chill up here. But Danny's not going to let that happen. She's going to come fly that dragon and burn shit to the ground. So it's going to be some sort of closure there. But yeah, to theorize at this point feels almost foolish because I mean, there's just too many variables.
Right. We'll see
Also,
Bran
don't
again. I'll theorize that
Yeah,
somehow.
and hopefully he'll have some importance because he right now is the biggest question mark. And I think he's been
It's
all season. Like, what are you
it's
doing, Brad?
it's up to you.